Hey everybody, thanks for tuning back in. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jacob Lee, and on this channel we are documenting my journey with stage 4 cancer. In this episode, I wanted to share an update about the results from the latest scans. So without further ado, let's jump in. So on this channel, my goal is to be transparent, even though I wouldn't say being vulnerable is necessarily my comfort zone, but the way I think is if I'm not being totally honest, I just don't see the point of making these videos. So here we go. 2 weeks ago, January 30th, we got an MRI done of my brain and a couple of CT scans of my abdomen and my chest. And the results were a bit of a mixed bag. The positive news was that the cancer in my liver had gone down. It shrunk noticeably, which was really good. And my bones, where there's cancer in my bones as well, lesions and whatnot, were healing. So those were two really good signs. But the negative news was that the tumor in my lung, which is where the cancer all started from, seems to have grown slightly, which the doctors weren't that concerned about because treatment could address that. But the more concerning part was that the scan in my brain seemed to show that cancer was in my meninges, and the meninges is basically the outer layer, the protective covering of the brain. And this was something that we had never identified before. So they asked me to go get follow-up scans last week, a week later. And what they were really looking for was to see if cancer had spread, not just to my meninges, but also to the CSF, which is a cerebrospinal fluid. All of this, the meninges and the CSF, are both the outer layer and the cushioning of the brain and the spinal cord. And when I kind of went home and looked up, what's the deal if the cancer had spread to your CSF, the prognosis was pretty grim. So we were really hoping that the cancer had not spread. It was contained in the meninges, but not the CSF. So we went to go get some more scans, and last week, and the scans unfortunately did confirm. We got the results for this yesterday. We took the scans on Thursday. We got the results yesterday on Tuesday, and it did confirm that there was cancer in the meninges as well as the cerebrospinal fluid. So now they want me to go get additional scans to see what the distribution of the cancer is like in the rest of my spine. So we're just doing scan after scan after scan in a 3-week period. So what does all of this mean? Basically, what I have, what they say I have, is leptomeningeal metastases, or leptomeningeal disease. And like I said, the prognosis is very, very sobering. This is all on Google anyway, so I'm just going to come out and say it. Before you factor in any treatments you can do, if I was to do nothing, they're saying my life expectancy would be in the months, that it would be very rare to go past a year. And the point of the specialized treatment would simply be to keep things at bay. There's basically no cure at this point. Treatment involves switching up my chemo, which I already did last night, and depending on the exact nature of the cancer in my CSF, we're talking possibly 4 weeks of radiation, 5 days a week. Honestly, when they said that to me, I was probably more upset at the idea of that than the prognosis. So yeah, very sobering. Not the news that I wanted to hear, not the news that I hoped for. So how do I feel? How am I processing all of this? I feel like I still need some time to wrap my head around this whole thing. I feel like, I don't know about Rachel, but for me, I'm just exhausted from the emotional roller coaster we've been on since the time of diagnosis in October. And I just need some more time to let this whole thing just kind of sink in. Um, Selfishly, I do have thoughts of, why is God, like, why is this happening to me? Selfishly, the realization is settling in that my life won't go back to what it was before, and that makes me sad. Rachel asked me the other day, maybe she was sensing something, and she was asking me, Jacob, what would give you energy to keep fighting? Like, what would keep you pushing and and stay motivated? And I guess this just reveals my own heart, self-centered heart. But I said, if I can go back to the life that I had, where food tasted good, going out was fun, I had energy to hang out with the boys, I had energy with you, I could go back to work, I could go to the gym. That would give me energy and motivation to keep fighting. Um, but that's just not in the cards for me at this point, or so it looks, humanly speaking. Um, but I still do believe God is in control. I still believe He is mighty. I still believe He is good, and that's true whether He heals me, which He has the power to do, or whether He doesn't. I will always be thankful for everything the Lord has done in my life, that He has accomplished on my behalf. But I would say it does feel strange at this stage of my life to be asking questions like, with the time I have left, what does it mean to end well? What are some of the things I need to have done um, before my time is up? What are some of the things I want to have done? Like, what does it look like for me to end well? I mean, if you knew you had a year to live, what would it mean for you to end well? That's kind of the question that I'm wrestling with as well. How do I end well? So as you can see, I am just all over the place at this point. Um, so, I just wanted to keep this video short. That's basically the update and a little bit of insight into how I'm personally doing. Obviously, prayers are coveted at this point. Sometimes I just feel too weak, or my heart's not even in it when I pray. I feel like I'm just facing the inevitable at this point. Of course, God can do anything, but on average, people in my shoes have months to live if the treatment doesn't work. The good news is the treatment is relatively new, so it's not reflected in the stats or in the prognosis online. So they seem to feel good about the medication. And another good thing is that I don't seem to be showing the symptoms that you would expect from a patient with cancer as advanced as mine. And this is kind of a similar theme to when they initially found cancer inside my brain. They were like, with this much cancer, like, you should be showing lots of symptoms, headaches, forgetfulness, all the stuff. And I just didn't. That's why we didn't even know that I had cancer. And it seems to be the case here. And I take that as a really, really good gift from God. At least cognizant, at least I'm aware, at least I can have conversation with my wife and my kids. So I do think that's a gift, and that seems to bode well. For some reason, we have such advanced cancer, and I'm not showing symptoms, so the doctors see that as a positive too. But nonetheless, yeah, it's a pretty grim and scary diagnosis. Well, I don't want to end the video on that note, so I actually do have a question for you as we close the video. And you can comment your feedback and your responses in the section below. And this is a very personal matter, so I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong. But many of you have seen my video about nutrition and me trying to change my diet. So my question is, if you were in my shoes and you just heard that prognosis of a year or less, apart from the intervention of God, would you still switch your diet to something that you absolutely despise, which is still better for your cancer? Or at this point, would you say, forget it, I'm just gonna eat whatever I want? I'm not looking for advice here. I just was very curious and interested in how you would respond to that and what you would do. Just between you and me, I found myself in the last 24, 36 hours turning to a lot of comfort foods, things that taste really, really good. So that's where I am right now. I don't know if I'll continue to be there, but I'm just looking for food that um, I'm familiar with, things that bring me back to my childhood, things that just bring a smile to my face. So thanks for sticking with me in this update video. I'll give you another update after the other scans.